Alright, hello everyone. Today, the topic is about operating mode for the food services. I'm the lecturer of this session. My name is Gui Shiping. So the management model is essential in this industry. So the first thing that we need to know is the dining type. For example, there are food for here. That means that there are seats inside the restaurants and people will eat inside. There's other type which is to go, the takeout. For example, there's a lot of beverage shops in Taiwan. There's no seats at all inside and they just take it out. Now, there's another emerging market or emerging type in Taiwan, which is delivery. They just take it to your house, to your location. So these are the types of the different dining mode. Now, we can also classify your shop by location. For example, there are shops, the typical shops by the streets. There's other type which is like a shop, but inside the shopping mall. There's like a food street there with different shops. Now, the last one is the traditional, the older type, which is in the traditional markets. Therefore, your shop can also be classified by its location. As you open your shop in different location, your client positioning will be different. The sales prices will also be different. Now, if we categorize the food service based on its model, we can classify it as the food truck, which can be seen on the right side. This is a food truck or a food stand that sells beverage. It's not a shop. And how to attract people? How do you increase your sales? Well, your food truck should have an exterior design to look beautiful, aesthetic, attracting. And the second one, which is the most common one, is the shop type. As you can see from the picture on the right, bottom right, it shows a shop that sells beverage. The brand of its name is Cha Time. There are a lot of shops of Cha Time right now around the world. This is like the main street mode of the shops. Of course, different shops can also be classified as food to take out, for here, or delivery. Now, if you classify your shops by numbers of your shop, you can divide it into 3. Like, for example, single shop. That means that you only have one shop. This is called single shop. Now we have multiple shops. This is the second type, like 3 to 4 shops. It's not a chain store yet, but you still have 3 to 4 shops. The last one is the chain shop. That means that you have a lot of shops with the same signboard. We will denominate the shop as chain store when they have more than 7 shops. These 7 shops have the same signboard. So this is the chain stores. Therefore, we can distinguish or we can classify the shop based on its number. Single shop, multiple shops, or chain stores or chain shops. Now, if we have more than 7 shops with the same signboard, we will call it chain stores. Now, the chain stores can also be classified into 2, which are regular chain and franchise chain. The regular chains are opened by the same company. They have the same signboard and they are managed and invested by the same company. So we call this as regular chain. The other type of shops is the franchise chain. That means that a third party would manage and invest this kind of franchises. However, this shop have the same signboard, and this is the so-called franchise chain. Therefore, we have these two types of chain stores, the regular one and the franchise one. Whether it's a regular chain or a franchise chain, we will denominate it as chain store when they have more than 7 shops. Now, the franchise chains can also be classified into different types. However, there are two principal ones. The first one is the voluntary chain, and the other one is the internal entrepreneurship. Of course, there are other categories, but they are the minor one. We're gonna talk about these two main types. If it's a voluntary chain, that means that we have a franchisee who do all the investment, who do all the operations, and of course, the franchisee should be responsible for all the profits and losses of this franchise. It does not share with the headquarters of the franchise. It's all his money. If it goes wrong, bankrupt, it's his problem. However, in internal entrepreneurship, it's also a franchise shop. The owner of this franchise is the internal employee of the headquarters or of the regular chains. Because this staff, these employees, they also want to become an owner of a shop. Therefore, we call this an internal entrepreneurship. So these two types of chains, they are the main types. There are others, but those are the minor ones. Now, let's go into detail about the voluntary chain. Most of the headquarters, they use this model, the voluntary chain. That means that there's a franchisee who put his money or her money to do the investment. The franchisee will be responsible for the profits and the losses of this franchise chain. Of course, this franchisee shall be responsible for all the expenses. The headquarters will not give you any guarantee of profits. The degree of freedom is relatively higher in this kind of franchise shop. For example, there's a brand in Taiwan which is called 85 degrees Celsius. They sell coffee, cakes, breads, and they have more than 1,000 shops around the world. And there's another brand which is called Share Tea, as you can see on the right side. They also use this voluntary chain model. Therefore, the most important franchise mode at the present time is voluntary chain. Now, let's see the other one, which is the internal entrepreneurship. This means that the franchise shop is owned by the internal staff of the headquarters or the regular franchise. This staff, they are outstanding. They are the good ones, the hardworking ones. Some of it are invested by this employee, and some of them are co-invested by the headquarters and the employee. This employee will be in charge of the operations of this franchise shop. The headquarters will provide a certain degree of resources and assistance. This will include, for example, the assessment of the business district or the shop location. They can also provide the trainings. They will give you their signboards. They will provide you with all the products. They will give you the management system. And they will also help you in the brand management. Of course, the chance of success will be higher with this mode. The internal entrepreneurship, well, it's a franchise shop, but it's not a regular franchise shop. because the franchisee is the existing employee of the regular franchise or the headquarter. In the past, industry with a higher barrier would adopt this kind of franchise. For example, the hairdressers, because they need certain skills that cannot be trained in a short period of time. Therefore, they have to look for the existing designers, hairdressers, to open another shop. However, until now, there's other businesses with a lower technical barrier. They are also adopting this kind of internal entrepreneurship franchise mode. Actually, it's a win-win mode both for the company and for the employees because they both have certain advantages. For the employees, if they do not join this internal entrepreneurship and they just start their own business by its own, with its own brand, with no reputation, this is gonna be more difficult. How about the overall design? They might not have enough money to hire a professional design company. They might not have the management system. They might not have other assistants in the marketing activities. However, if they join this kind of internal entrepreneurship mode, the company will help you, whether in the assessment of the location, in the management planning, the marketing activities. You can also use their signboards. So the chance of success will be higher. On the contrary, if you try to start your own brand, the probability of success will be lower. What are the advantages for the company or the headquarters? If they do not have this kind of model, this employee might open its own shop. They will have their own brand, and they will become your competitors. That means that there will be a lot of competitors. In the past, there were different restaurant brands that you do not get that much of startup money. So a lot of the employees, they just went with this model, and these companies, they have a lot of competitors. So that's not good for the company, the main company. However, with this internal entrepreneurship model, you can keep all the outstanding talents. They will still be your employee or your partners, but they won't become your competitors. This is a way to expand your chain store too. They are still franchise, and the probability of success will also be higher because first, the company, of course, will hire the outstanding employees to start a franchise. And second, this employee must have worked for a long period of time. If you just trained nobody or somebody of the outsides, for example, you give them a month of training, but if you compare it with this staff who has worked for more than 2 years, of course, you would hire the most experienced one. In this way, the success probability will be higher. Therefore, this is a win-win model both for the company and for the employee. For all the participants here, if you have a shop and you are doing well, it's still profitable, you can start planning this kind of chain model, which is the internal entrepreneurship. You may allow your employees to open their own shop, to let them be sub-owners. If you have this kind of system in your company, it's going to be easier for you to hire employees because this is a very attracting condition. For example, you can tell them that if you work for certain years, if you have reached certain performance, they will also be a sub-owner. That's why it's going to be easier for you to attract the good staff to your company. However, if you want to do this internal entrepreneurship system, you have to establish certain qualification conditions, certain requirements, who will be qualified. For example, if you have a headquarters, you can invite the personnel in the headquarters to start up, or you can look for the employees in the regular franchise. Therefore, you need to have certain requirements and conditions of qualifications. So you have to tell them, you have to work for certain years in my company or in my shop. For the management, you have to work for certain years. For the ordinary staff, for how many years? Of course, you're not going to allow a new staff who have just worked for 2 to 3 months to do their own startups. Also, you need to pick the outstanding staff. How do you know that they are outstanding between brackets? You need to have the evaluation of their performances. That means that you are scoring them. If you do not have this evaluation, you have to think of establishing one. You have to tell them what is the score to make them qualified for the internal entrepreneurship mode. If their score is below a certain number, they will be disqualified. If it's a staff of the store, and if, for example, it's the manager, how long should they work in your shop in order to be eligible for its application? Therefore, you need to list all the requirements and conditions. It has to be very clear for all your staff, all your personnel. When will they be qualified to apply for the internal entrepreneurship mode? Therefore, you can think about this. You can think about the system of internal entrepreneurship. Now, if it's a franchise shop, this ordinary franchise shop, it's a way for the SMEs to expand into a bigger company. For example, in the manufacturing industry, it's going to be very difficult for the small and medium enterprises to expand. However, it's another story with the chain shops. That's because I use other people's fund, other people's investment to expand my shop. That's why the small and medium enterprises can opt this kind of model, including the medium one and the large ones. If you are trying to expand a factory, it's going to be very difficult for the small enterprises to do so. For example, the brand that I have mentioned before, 85 degrees Celsius, that sells cakes, bread, it's a classic small and medium enterprise. However, it opted for the franchise mode. That's why they have more than 1,000 shops around the world. They are also listed in the stock markets. This is actually a very typical small and medium enterprise advancing into a bigger company. Now, if they are all regular chains, let's suppose that I've opened a shop and the investment amount is 1 million. If I want to open 100 regular chains, I need to do 1 million times 100. That means that I need 100 million to open that many of stores. However, a small enterprise would not have that much of fund, and that's why they can't expand quickly. If I allow other people to apply for the franchise, I will still got the franchise commission to collect. That's why we need to use other people's fund, other people's resources to expand. Now, in this kind of franchise, what I'm trying to do is to establish a channel brand rather than a product brand. What does that mean to establish a channel brand? That's the signboard on your entrance. That is the channel brand. However, the product brand are the products sold inside under that brand. What you need to pay attention is that you are trying to establish a channel brand. People will consider more the product brand. However, this is a misconception. In the past, there's a lot of restaurants, chain restaurants. They went to China to open more stores. And then once I met an owner of a chain restaurant. I asked him if he was interested to open his store in China. He said no. And I asked him, there's a lot of restaurants in Taiwan who went to China. And he said that because China has a strong power of imitation, you might get the first authorization commission. However, after they learned all your models, they will leave you behind and they will open a store of their own brands. That's why he was not interested in expanding its brand in China. In terms of the coffee chain shops, the leading brand is Starbucks. It's actually an American brand, but there are a lot of Starbucks in Taiwan. It's the leading brand of the coffee shops. Now, what's the uniqueness of Starbucks product? Well, maybe you cannot really describe it. But is it a leading brand? Yes, it is. In the past, the Taiwanese people like to become their own owner after learning all the skills from his or her previous company. In Taiwan, Starbucks has been cultivating for many years. They have these managers, and maybe this manager is rich. They can still open a coffee shop similar to Starbucks because they might not all the suppliers, they might not all the staff inside. So they could have opened a Starbucks between brackets. However, can they win Starbucks? Well, no, because this is the power of brand. They have different brand names. Even though you have the same products, same coffee beans, same equipment, however, they have the brand. You cannot steal the brand. That's why you need to establish a channel brand. You can see that there's a lot of staff in Starbucks who are really young. They're not masters. And they just brew the coffee with the machines. They don't need a very skillful technique. They just press the bottom. However, the brand is very strong. The brand is established in the mind and in the heart of the customers. Now, the franchise brand should be able to cross the limits of time and space. What does this mean? That means that this consumer would like to consume or buy from this brand yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And that's when you can open these chain stores. However, there are some restaurants who cannot cross the limit of time and space. For example, the traditional lunch boxes or the traditional restaurants, they will all face the same problem. For example, today I will eat in a traditional Chinese restaurant A, and tomorrow you see another traditional Chinese restaurant and you will want to try in that restaurant. That would be restaurant B. So if you open a lot of the same traditional Chinese restaurants, you are competing with each other because they wouldn't consume the same every day. They wouldn't eat the same every day. Now, why there are so many Starbucks or McDonald's? There's a lot of kids in Taiwan who like to go to McDonald's. They will always insist in McDonald's. Or the young people, they will also like to go to Starbucks. They will go yesterday, today, and tomorrow. This is to cross the limit of time. However, what's crossing the space? That means that you can open your store whether in the business district, in the residential area, in the commercial district, or the office areas. You need to have a very high standard of your location. The three elements of success of your shop is location, location, and location. That's why you need to find the right collection. However, if you want to find the right the location, it's going to be very difficult to open that many. However, if you open your shop all, for example, in the residential area and the business district, you will increase your success rates. Now, is it better to have your own brand or is it better to open a franchise shop? Which one will be better for you? If you have your own shop or your own brand, my recommendation that you are opening a shop in which you have a lot of relevant experiences. This is to increase the success rate of your own brand. However, if you have zero experience in that industry, you don't have skillful techniques, my recommendation would open a franchise shop. You just join the franchise system because this will definitely increase your success rate. Why it's so? As I have mentioned, Starbucks is a leading brand. And actually, the Starbucks in Taiwan, it's not the American stuff. It's not operated by the American Starbucks. It actually authorized a very big company in Taiwan. It is called the Uni-Presidents. And the Uni-President, they have two partners or two investors, Uni-President and the Uni-President convenience store, which is 7-Eleven. They are a really big company in Taiwan. And they are opening coffee shop. That's why they introduced the brand of Starbucks. And they know that this brand is American. Why doesn't Uni-President open its own coffee shop like Uni Coffee? Because it's not that easy to establish a know-how. But it's going to be easier to introduce the know-how or the model, the successful model of other people. Therefore, if you do not have relevant experiences of techniques, I would suggest you to open a franchise. You have the foundation of other people's successful experiences. And this will help you to succeed too. You are replicating the same model. Of course, one of the problems is that it's not exclusive, it's not unique. However, if you're opening a restaurant and you are very exclusive, you have a very unique flavor of the meal, my recommendation will be don't do franchise. Because if you replicated this kind of shop, when you can eat it everywhere, it's not unique anymore. It's not exclusive anymore. Therefore, if your product is unique and exclusive, it's better to just open regular chains or just single chains. Because if there are too many of your shop, you wouldn't be exclusive or unique anymore. And this will weaken your competitiveness. Now let's dive a bit further with the franchising. Actually, there are 4 elements of franchising, and the first one is brand authorization. If you want to open a franchise McDonald's, you want to use their signboards. If you do not have their authorization, you cannot use their signboards. You have to go to their headquarters, the headquarters that have issued these brands, and you have to get their authorization. That's why this is the first element. Now, the second element is to sign franchising contract. That means that the headquarters and the franchisee, they have a contract. They have to specify all the rights and obligations inside of this contract so that both parties will follow the content of the contracts. The one who authorizes, they must have the copyright of the brand in order to give their authorization to the franchisee. The third element is that the headquarters will provide the franchisee with backup support and product development. This will include, for example, the assessment of your shop location of the business district. They will also help you in the design and planning of the shop. They will give you technical transfer, educational training. They will also provide the franchisee all the products, the management system, and all other plannings and assistances in terms of marketing. They are helping the franchisees to do better. So these are the resources offered by the headquarters. However, all these resources are not free. The franchisee must pay a franchising payment or cost to the headquarters. And so this is called the franchising cost or payment. They are paying this money to the headquarters. And when we say franchisee shop, it's actually the physical shops. We exclude the online or digital shops because they don't need franchising. We're focusing on the physical shop, the physical franchise shops. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of opening a franchise? For example, the pros. The first one is to reduce the risk or failure because you are replicating the successful model of other people. The franchisee can see the successful experiences of other people, and they will see that their products are actually welcomed by the market. You can also adopt the existing management and marketing systems. Or otherwise, if you're not joining these franchise shops, you're trying to make your own brand, you're assessing your own location, you might make mistakes because you don't have experiences of other people. How about the decoration, the planning of the product? Are you doing surveys whether they like your products or no? Or to do some marketing activities, you don't have that much of time to do everything. However, if you don't adopt the successful models of other people, you might also succeed. Of course, this is not a guarantee of success. Now, the second advantage is that you have brand awareness. That means that people know about your brand. However, if you are trying to start your own brand, people will not know about it. This franchising headquarters, they will organize different marketing activities in order to increase their brand awareness. And that this will give you positive influences to your franchise shop. For example, the beverage shops in Taiwan, basically those who can survive are the chain shops. If they're only single shop, it's gonna be very difficult for them to survive. They cannot win the brand shops because customers will usually choose those shops who have better brands. Therefore, the chain shop are the one who can really survive. The third advantage is you have the backup support, assistance, and development of the headquarters. They will help you at different levels, including the marketing, product development, and others. If you open your own shops, actually running the shop is already very tiring, very difficult, and you need to develop new products. You need to establish management system. You don't have that much time and effort. However, the headquarters of a franchising headquarters, they have a team to do so. That's why this will increase your success rate. However, having pros, you will also have its cons. What are the disadvantages? The first one is that you are regulated by the headquarters. Because the chain shops or the chain headquarters, they look for uniformity. That means that you need to work as they said so. You need to be in compliance with all their regulations. You cannot choose your own way to do the things. For example, if they ask you to sell certain products, you have to sell that product. You cannot say no. You cannot say no to their regulations. That's why your level of freedom will be lower. And the second disadvantage is that you have to pay certain amount of money to the headquarters, not only for the training, but also for the technical transfer, for the marketing and everything. That's why you have to pay a franchising cost to the headquarters. So these are the disadvantages of opening a franchise shop. Now, when we say franchise fee or franchise cost, you have three items. So the first one will be the franchise cost, the principal one. That means that you are giving them money to do the overall design of the shop. They have this professional company to do so. And before opening the shop, they will also give you a training to do the technical transfer. Of course, you have to pay for this. And you have to pay it in lump sum. This is called the franchise fee. You are paying to the headquarters. They wouldn't return you this money, and they're helping you with the design, evaluation, training, technical transfer. This is called the franchise fee. Now, the second one is the royalty. That means that once you become their franchise shop and you want to use the brand, the signboard of this company, and you want to use its name and the subsequent resources, you have to pay them a royalty. Because you are using its brand continuously. That's why this payment is also continuous. Maybe it's paid per month, per quarter, or per year. So different brands will have different regulations. If you use their signboard, if you use their name, this is a continuous behavior. That's why the royalty payment, it's not only once. Of course, they have different names for the royalty. It might call a monthly fee, monthly management fee, or advertisement fee. As long as your franchise contract is in its existent periods, they will charge you the royalty. And there are two types of royalty. The first one is the fixed amount. That means regardless of the size of your franchise shop, regardless of your income, whether it's, for example, 120,000, okay, you have to pay a fixed amount of royalty. And the second one is a commission in percentage. For example, if it's 2% of your income, and your income per month is, for example, 1 million, then 2% would be 20,000. However, if the next month you just make 0.5 million, then you will pay less. However, in the markets, the first type is most frequently used. The one that is regardless of your size of your shop, regardless of your income, they will charge you the same thing. Because if they want to use the second type, the headquarters need to manage your balance statements. They have to know your income. Because usually there are certain conflicts. The franchise may report less of their income in order to pay less of the royalty. So this is a troublesome problem for the headquarters. In order to avoid this kind of problems, they just charge a fixed amount of the royalty. Therefore, they will not track or inspect your balance statements and to avoid unnecessary conflict. So this is the royalty. Now, there's another thing, which is the warranty or the margin. One of the guarantee is the compliance of the contracts, because you will both sign a franchise contract. If you violate this contract, you will get a penalty. So this is a warranty for it. The other type of warranty is for the goods that or the product that you buy from the headquarters. And this is actually counted by month. Of course, you wouldn't be paying after you receive the product. Or if you do so, and the headquarters might be afraid that you can't pay the products, then you will also have this kind of warranty money, the margin. Of course, the amount of this money will be correlated with the power of the brand. If the brand is very powerful, they might charge you more guarantee money. If it's less powerful, maybe the guarantee will be less. And what's the difference between royalty and the warranty? So, for example, the warranty, if you haven't violated the contract, after the contract expires, you will get this money back. If you do not violate the contract, if you do not have any debt. Now, how about the interest? You have to specify this in your contract. If it's a return of the warranty with interest or without interest? Now, you can pay the margins in 3 ways. The first one is in cash or check. The second one is property mortgage. That's because maybe you do not have that much cash in your pockets. That's why you will have this property mortgage. For example, you have a house, a piece of land, and then you will get into mortgage. Now, the third one is a commercial document. Maybe you have already paid for the franchising payments, and you have to pay the guarantee, but you don't have house or any real estate. That's why you will sign these commercial documents. So you have these 3 costs: the franchising costs, the royalties, and the warranty. They are different costs in the franchising. Now, if we classify the franchise based on the numbers of the shop, you can divide into 3: single store franchising, multiple store franchising, and area franchising. If it's a single store franchising, it's applicable in a smaller geographical areas. So, for example, they just give you the authorization of 1 single shop in certain areas. And for the multiple store franchising, this is applicable in a small area. For example, they just give you the authorization of 3 shops in certain areas, smaller areas. So there's a brand in Taiwan which is called Meat Fresh. They use this multiple store franchising model. They give the authorization of 3 shops. If it's only 1 single shop, you just pay 1 single store franchise cost. But if it's 3 shops, this authorization cost will be higher. Now, the third type is an area franchising, and this is applicable in countries that have bigger area. For example, you can do the international authorization and overseas authorization. That means that I authorize you to open this brand in this country or in these regions. They can decide how many shops, but they are in charge of this region. However, the franchising cost for this type, the area franchising, is larger. You can also authorize the franchise of a city, of a village. And this cost will be much higher than the single store franchising cost. For example, there's a lot of Taiwanese brands that authorizes China to do franchise shops. And they can do it based by the country, by the province, or by the city. So these are the 3 types of franchising. Now, can I become a franchising headquarters? If you want to become the headquarters of a franchise, you need to meet these conditions. For example, your brand has been established for a certain period of time. Because if you have established for a really short period of time, you don't have all the system established. You don't have all the know-hows. You might still have certain defaults. Therefore, the success rate will be lower. So take some time to establish all the systems in order to become a franchise headquarter. Now, second, you need to reach certain amount of stores. You need to reach a certain scale. Because if you only have 1 or 2 stores, you don't have the experience of managing chain stores. In order to be a mature headquarter of franchise, you have to make a lot of adjustment and corrections with all the stores. You will get all the know-hows, and you will have a mature operation model. This will increase your success rates. If you have more shop, of course, you have more amount of purchase. In this way, you can lower your cost. You can give a lower cost to your franchisee, or you can resell the products to the franchisees. If you only have 1 or 2 shop, of course, you cannot reduce the cost. You cannot resell the product to the franchisee, or you cannot make money from the reselling. Now, the third thing is you have to have a rigorous process of franchising. You need to select your franchisee. You have to say no to certain of the franchisee because not everyone is adequate of being franchise owner. You need to see whether this person is adequate to run a franchise shop. That's why you need to have a rigorous franchising procedure. Now, the fourth condition is that your product is welcomed by the public market. In order to reach certain economic scales, you need to have a bigger market of your products. In this way, you can open more shops and to be successful. If your product belongs to a niche market, that means that you have a smaller market, it's better to have a regular franchise or regular chains because you don't have a big market of your product. To reach economic of scale, you have to open a lot of shops. That's why your product needs to be welcomed by the public markets. If we use a pyramid to describe the objectives of the franchisee, we can divide it into 3 layers. For example, your targets, should be the general public, which should be at the bottom of the pyramid. Now we have 3 types of headquarters. There's one that supplies the products, the management style, and the store opening styles. For example, the store opening styles headquarter, what does this mean? It means that they charge you a certain amount of money, they do not do management, they do not supply you with the products, but they help you to open these stores. And then you run the shop by yourself. Now, the supplying type headquarter, this headquarter will help you to open the store and they will supply you with all the products. A lot of the Taiwanese brands are doing this supplying style headquarter. Now, the third type is the managing style headquarters. They help you to open a store, they supply you with all the products, and they have a centralized management system to manage and run your store. That means that it has a rigorous management. For example, the convenience stores in Taiwan, they use this kind of systems. In order to be a successful franchise headquarter, I will suggest you to do managing style headquarter. You have to do the management in order to increase your success rate. Now, if you want to be authorize other people to use your brand, that means that you are authorizing the franchising, you can check these 7 elements. The first one is, are the operational techniques of the store simplified? The franchising concept is to allow the external party without experiences to quickly know how to handle or operate the store. That means that after assisting a short term of training, they can just open a store. If your techniques are too difficult, you cannot reach this kind of model. For example, the chain coffee stores. For example, there are a lot of chain coffee stores in Taiwan that do not brew the coffee by their hand. They just use the coffee machines. Or the meals that they sell, they don't have a chef in their store to cook them. They have this frozen food that can be heated by the microwave. So anyone can do this job. This is to cost down your operation. If an employee leaves, then you can just replace this position with another new employee. Remember to simplify your techniques. Just get rid of the complicated processes and product. The second one, as I have mentioned, your product must be welcomed by the public market in order to be able to open more stores. If your product belongs to the niche market, then do not authorize franchising. The third one is that you have to have a lot of shopping areas, and you can open your stores in different areas, whether in the residential area, commercial district, and office regions. The next one is, do you have a regular chain? Because if your regular chain is profitable, you can consider franchising. Because people will see that your regular chain is making money. If you're making money, of course, they will also want to make money. Now, the fifth element that you have to consider is whether your product belongs to the trend. If it's a popular product just because of the trend, then it would not be suitable for franchising, because they cannot do long-term business with this product. You need to look for certain products that can be marketed for a long period of time. Now, 6, you have to have a headquarters. Do you have professionals in your headquarters? Did they organize their staff? Do you have professional people to promote the franchising system or to manage the franchising system? If you just have a staff of the store, then it wouldn't be adequate for you to authorize franchise. And 7, do you have professional design company to design your shops? To be successful, the style of your franchise should be well designed by professional design companies in order to attract people, in order to be able to develop franchise shops. Therefore, if you want to authorize other people for the franchising, you need to see if you have met all these conditions. Now, if I want to open a franchise shop, I can see the following indicators. The first one is the number of regular chains should reach a certain amount. That means that they have reached certain economic scale, they are experienced. This is equal to higher success rates. If they have only 1 or 2 regular chains, they are still in the exploration phase, and your success rate will be lower. Now, the second thing is the brand should exist on the market for a certain time. They are verified by the market. They do not go with the trends. Therefore, you have to test the brand and the product. Can the product survive for a long period of time? Not all the products can survive. If they can survive, then you can franchise. You can get this franchise shop. Now, the third one is the product must be welcomed by the public market. Remember, not the niche market. The fourth is that you have to see the number of the franchising shops. If there are more and more of this franchising shop, that means that it's may be profitable still. But if the number is declining, that means that this brand is shrinking or reducing. Now, you have to also see the number of marketing activities organized by the headquarters, because if they help you, you will have better sales performance. You can attract more people. Therefore, you have to consider the number of marketing activities and promotional activities organized by the headquarters. You can use this indicator. If there are a lot of marketing activities, maybe you will have better performance. Remember, when you are choosing which franchise brand to open, you can consider these indicators. Now, if you want to open the franchising, there's 10 steps to reduce the risks. The first thing is you have to analyze your personality and hobbies. It's better that this industry fit your personality or fit your hobby. Don't choose an industry that you have no interest at all or if not adequate for your personality. For example, the food service, you have to be fit enough because you have to stand for a really long time sometimes. You also have to analyze your personality to pick the industry that suits you. Now, you have to collect information of that industry. You can do it online, or you can find the different information of the franchising brand. They will tell you what's the franchising cost, what are the conditions, requirements, eligibility, what are the profits, what are their financial situation. So you can collect this information. Now, you can join the franchising workshop held by this company in order to understand the overviews of the markets, the operational style, and the franchising method. Usually they have this kind of workshop and they have a detailed description of their products, what's the cost of the franchising, what are the conditions of eligibility, what's the current status of their developments, what are the resources and assistance offered by the companies, what are the marketing activities. So they will explain it one by one, and you can go and listen to know about this franchise brand. Then choose 2 to 3 franchising brands to negotiate, to understand their philosophy, to understand their model. Don't just sign directly after talking with one brand. Because remember, you have to visit personally the companies. You have to visit personally the factories too. So talk to more than one franchising brands. Choose 2 to 3. Because in this way, you can do the comparisons. You can compare which of their operation modes is better. Because if you talk with one, they will only show you their advantages, but they will not show you the cons, the disadvantages, or the shortcomings. Who knows their disadvantages? That should be their competitors. That's why you have to talk with other brands. Brand A, Brand B, and Brand C. The peers will know their disadvantages and shortcomings. That's why you have to do this comparison. Because if you talk with one, they will only tell you their advantages. Go to their competitors to see what are their disadvantages. You have to also know their financial status and the amount of investment. After analyzing all this, remember to visit their existing franchising shops. You have to know a bit about the actual operations. You can ask the headquarters to give you a list of the existing franchising shops. You can check their status. If you have the chance, you can also talk with the owners of this franchising to check their operational mode. If there's any problem with the headquarters, sometimes when you talk with them, you get a lot of complaints. So you have to consider, of course, you have to consider whether they are telling the truth or not. Don't go to only one franchising shops because sometimes it has a particular situation. So visit 2 or 3 franchising shops, and this shop should be in different location. Maybe in the business area, residential area, office areas. You can go during daytime and during nighttime too. Go during weekdays and during weekends. In this way, you can see their operation status at the different times, different moments. Now, just compare the pros and cons of the different brands. You can see their advantages. Maybe some of them have a higher brand or better brand, a higher income. What's their franchising cost? What are their conditions? Maybe certain brands, they have already opened a lot of franchising shops. Then you might reconsider because maybe it's very difficult for you to insert into the markets. After making all this comparison, you have to do the final decision. Now, some of the brand will sign like a draft contract. Some of them will not. So, go through the contract and then choose the location of your franchising shops. Where will you open your franchising shops? Go and look for the shop, do the evaluation. You can also ask the headquarters to do the business district evaluation to see whether the location is suitable. If it's not suitable, go for another one. You have to find the appropriate one to open your franchise shop. After choosing the shop location, you can sign the official franchising contract in order to start running your franchising business. So these are the 10 steps that you can follow when you want to open a franchise shop, and these 10 steps can help you to reduce the risk of failure. So in conclusion, choose the right brands in order to succeed. Remember, the single brand and the bigger brands. The bigger brands are stronger, of course. The bigger brands, you can succeed more with the bigger brands. That's why you have to choose the correct brand or a very strong brand in order to attract more people to buy. And this brand may also offer you better assistances and better resources. This is all aimed to have a higher success rate. If you create your own brand, of course, the rate of success will be lower. And the smaller brand, of course, maybe the franchising cost is lower, but maybe its competitiveness is lower too. That's why go to the briefings, go to the workshops, visit the franchising shops. Just go step by step in order to choose the right brands and start your own business. I wish you all success in your entrepreneurship. I am Gui Shiping. Thank you very much for participating in this course.